Maybe. By all means, yeah, yes, ma'am. Well done. Forget the vowel. I'm just writing down examples. By all means, get comfortable. It's always easier for me to start slowly. The Tuesdays have a day of becoming a day. Good evening, ma'am. I did not start it. I'm just writing examples when people come in. Thank you for being here.
Long time no see. Yeah.
Yeah. Good evening, everyone. It's good to see everyone. On Zoom, we have Dr. Silver, Dr. Johnson, Dr. Bloomberg, Stephanie Sterling, ma'am, Courtney Schlisserman, and in the classroom, we have myself, Max, Phyllis, Victor, Mary, and Jeff. Thank you all for being here. So yeah, Chag Sameach. I wrote down some examples here before I dive into what we're going to do today. But yeah, it's the second eve of Shavuot today, I do believe, right? Or something like that. Just, sorry? So just to tackle that, I figured I'd write the two top examples. Mary already read the top. Chag Sameach. This is one you hear a lot in the diaspora. No wonder that many of us know it. I do want to say that Chag is a more modern word. Biblical sense, they used to use the word, the combination of words, good day, Yom Tov. So Chag or Yom Tov say the same thing. A good day, a day of celebration, a day of festivities, which is why holidays are usually equivalent to Sabbaths. Continuing on, Chag Sameach. Transliterate. There's actually a very interesting caveat here. So if we're doing it slowly but surely, sa, we have the patach here, the kamatz here. Mem, we have the mem with the two dots. And then we have the chet with a patach. So the question is raised, why is it not samecha? The answer is, specifically with chet, patach, sometimes gets an added role, or in Hebrew, we kind of split it to a different patach. It's called a stolen patach. So instead of saying it'll say e'ah. There are other examples like ruach. I'm going to write it down below. Ruach. Transliterate. Which means, so ruach means either spirit or wind.
Matani, can it also mean breath?
No, not in that sense. We will need to add it to it. Sorry, I think someone's at the waiting room here. So in order to we can make it breath, but we'll need to add to it. Almost. So yeah, but actually, let me. I'm gonna spirit finish this and then address that. Spirit or wind. The other example we were just talking about is, let's see, where do I have room? Reach, which means smell. So, and then when we say reach pe, it'll be breath of the mouth, that is. If I just say reach, it just means smell. I'm gonna transliterate next to it. Which means smell. There are other words, yareach, which means moon. I'm gonna erase the top and write that. Truth be told, my intention was not to tackle the stolen patach, but it's good that we did. But yeah, this, and it does that only with the chet, I will say that. Yareach, which means moon.
Doesn't seem to be related.
It doesn't.
Just
It doesn't. The reason is phonetic, sir, which is why I didn't address it when we were doing vowels. I figured if I add an irregular, it'll make us more confused. I do believe I just gave you 90% of all the vocabulary that has it, between ruach, reach, and the areach. Any questions about that? Awesome. But yeah, I did want to talk about Chag Sameach. And then, so that was the first example. And then we have this, the second one I wrote before starting.
Chag Shavuot Sameach.
Exactly. Well done, Dr. Bloomberg. Chag Shavuot Sameach. A few interesting things that are happening here is that the adjective, as we can see, comes after that which we are talking about. So there's a holiday, it's Shavuot, and I'm wishing you for it to be happy. Or it's happy. But in any case, the adjective is happy, it comes at the end. Versus in English, happy holiday of Shavuot, the adjective will come before. In Hebrew, it's flipped the other way around. The adjective comes after. Chag Shavuot Sameach to us all, to all of Israel. Any questions about number 2? While everyone's writing. Maybe. So I'm gonna erase the bottom here. Sir, Chag Shavuot Sameach. Shavuot. Does anyone know what Shavuot means? So the word Shavuot is an irregular. We'll be talking about it. Shavua means a week.
Doesn't it mean weeks?
Yes, sir. Yeah, exactly.
Plural.
Sorry.
The plural of week, so it's weeks.
Exactly. Well done. So weeks, it's the pro, as Jason well done said, Shavua, one is the singular of the week. Shavuot means plural week, so weeks. It refers to the counting of the weeks and Omer and all that. I will say the word Shavua, it pluralizes irregularly. We will talk about it hopefully today. Let's make sure I don't forget actually. Okay, but in any case, if that's understood and there are no questions, I do want to tackle this line here, and I'm gonna erase the bottom with ruach and vach. But last week, we finished pronouns, singular and plural of them. I remind us, it kind of conveniently fits the four, me speaking of myself as a male, me speaking as myself as a woman, as a female, and then plural of each. That if we put aside the it for now. But after that, what we started doing was question words, and we gave a few examples. Now, what I want to do today is continue tackling the question words, give some more examples, and hopefully once finishing that, getting to our notorious masculine and feminine, singular and plural, and doing it more thoroughly. We mentioned it before, touched on it, hopefully today. And next lesson, what we'll do is touch on it a lot more thoroughly. So I have this line here. We spoke about this first question word or interrogative pronoun. Anyone want to try and read it? On Zoom, by all means, to Matai. Matai. Which means when. Okay, we have the mem with the kamatz, making it a ma. We have the taf with a patach, making it ta. And we have the yud. We know technically at the end of the word it has no vowel. So matai. Matai. Okay, when. And I do want to say we spoke about how the verb to be is implied, which is why when I say matai, when, in the right context, it can also mean when is, when are, when do they, when are we, and so on and so forth. Matai, when. We have a prefix here, ha, the. When the. Anyone want to try and read this?
Isa.
Tisa. Well done, sir. Repeating it for the sake of Zoom. Tisa. Tisa. We have the
Tisa.
with a dot underneath, making it T, the U carrying the sound. We have the samech here. Remember, it sounds like an S. It's not the final mem. It has the kamatz under it, making it an A sound, so a sa, and the hey at the end carries the sound. So tisa, tisa. Matai, ha, tisa. Tisa, does anyone want to know what it means? Okay. Tisa means flight. Okay. Not flight in the sense of I am taken off flying with joy, but in the sense of an actual flight. So when is the flight? Remember, we have that added step in our brain because reading it literally is matai, when, And in most occasions, you'll need to finish the sentence in order to understand the implied to be add-on. So when the flight. In my mind, trying to think in English, I know it means when is the flight. In which case we can say, anyone want to throw a number that they remember? Echad, well done. Hatisa be'echad, well done. Echad.
How about PM or AM?
So
Do they do that?
we do not in the same way. We'll just write it down. Echad, so that means one in a male way. With numbers, definitely don't try to remember the male versus female. Israelis never get it. Don't not just mistake it. Echad. And then if I want to say afternoon, I need to say to write afternoon. So I'm gonna write that down. Awesome calculation of space. I'm going to get better. Okay. So if I just want to say one, I say echad. And then we have the two other afternoon we just said after it. Let's write and read it together. Aleph with a kamatz, chet with a kamatz, cha, and resh at the end. Achar, after. Ha prefix after the, and we have two of the missing cholams here. So ho ra im. Bigger. I'm gonna do it slower. We have the tzaddik with a missing cholam, the dot here, making it so. Maybe I'll write it down here on the top actually. It's here in the classroom, it's a bit low. I'm gonna write it down. I did the Israeli thing, which use double U's, just as because I'm used to it. It's okay to use double U's, by the way. So like this. Don't have to, it's okay. Vowel. So without having the dictionary in front of my face, I may mix the patach and the kamatz. I'm doing my best, forgive me, but in essence, achar, we already said it, reading it slowly here. Ha, that's a prefix. The. So, we have the missing cholam. Ho, we have the missing cholam. Ra, we have the resh with the patach. Yud, with the chirik, the dot underneath, making it an E sound. So, ho, ra, im. Again, achar, ha, tzohoraim. So if you're asking matai hatisa, when is the flight? And we want to say one afternoon. Echad, achar hatzohoraim, which will mean one after the noon. Which in English we don't need the noon, but yeah. Make sense? Questions about this on Zoom? in the classroom. Awesome. So Mataya Tisa, when is the flight? Last week, what we did Matai and we did me. So who? Let's see, what else am I remembering? Forgetting here. So, and I do want to point out, we have the prefixes here. We made a comment a few lessons ago. How do we, because there are words that begin with those sounds, right? Ha, ve, be. There's definitely a need to build vocabulary so you can identify words such as sohoraim, and then understand, okay, someone added a prefix here. For some reason, they're trying to say something. And we've seen that many a times the prefixes can add to each other. Like last lesson we spoke about from the city, Cheyenne, me ha'ir, Cheyenne. So the purpose being of saying all of this is that what we're learning builds onto each other, okay? And I'm trying to give examples so it won't just be a topic and then moving to the next topic. I was told that we ought to do more practice with each other. Truth be told, there's a lot of material. I want us to split into groups and do stuff. Let's see our progression. I'm gonna erase the board and move on to our other examples. Awesome turnout at the Yiddish Food Festival too, huh? Okay, so I am on page 27, still doing question words, aka interrogative pronouns. We did the top. No, let's try these just for practice. No. Wrote down 3 examples. Anyone want to read the top? Ma. Do we remember what it means? What? Exactly. Means what? Let's think of an example. Ma means what? I'm going to add an example and then to it next to it. I think we did this one for the sake of thoroughness. I want to try read now. Exactly, man. Well done. Well done. So Mary said beautifully here, ma ha sha'a. Ma ha sha'a. I'm going to transliterate. Does anyone want to guess what it means? It means what the hour. So we understand it is what's the hour, what time is it, right? Hasha. Prefix ha, the, mahasha'a. Very commonly in Israel, that's exactly how we ask what time it is. What is the hour? So yeah, this will mean what is the hour.
Matani.
That's Jason?
So when talking about hours in Israel, is everybody on essentially a 24-hour clock, or do they use AM and PM?
So we will use 1 till 12 and then after 12, of course, we'll just say after noon. In the military, it is customary to say 14, 15, 16, kind of like it's here. And I do believe in the military, they do that here too. But again, after afternoon, we kind of need to, like we did earlier, acharat zoraim. So people will understand you mean evening and not 1 a.m. Does that answer, Jason?
Thank you.
Thank you. But yeah, so as you can see, Israelis don't ask what time it is. They ask what is the hour. And it's a perfect example for one of those where Israelis will think different, or we will say the same thing differently. Which is why we're also doing translation here. It's not just taking up a language. Or taking up a language, in essence, is also translation. Sorry, that was long. Moving on to the next example. We should know this one too. Lama. Metsuyan, excellent. Metsuyan, excellent. Lama, which means why, or the animal. Let's think of an example. Down. We have a pronoun. Vowel is wrong. Okay, so we have the second example. I turned llama Y into a fuller example. So we already know the first word, llama, Y. Does anyone remember this pronoun? Atem. Yeah, yes, ma'am. You
Why
speaking.
are you something or other?
Yeah, why are you? Well done, ma'am. Well done. So atem speaking to a plural, multiple people. Po. Po. We have the missing cholam. Oh, and I forgot the gesh. Yeah, I will say I rewatch the classes and then notice I make mistakes like these. If you catch them, by all means. Lama atem po. Does anyone remember what po means? Here. Why are you here? So it sounds weird. It's a weird question, but it's very plausible to be asked that at an airport, for example. Lama atem po. And then we can answer. We're tourists in Israel, for example. We're Jews. I'm going to erase the top and write those answers. And transliterate, and that goodness. Why are you here? So for example, we're at the airport, the security guard or whoever it is asks you, why are you here? And then we can answer. See, what does this word mean? Anachnu, yeah, we. Perfect, excellent, well done. מצוין. אנחנו, let's say, can I erase this, the question itself? I'm running out of room here. And I'll just write it better. Another answer could be, I'm gonna read it with you in a moment. Okay, so I wrote down two examples. אנחנו, we, Yehudim. אנחנו Yehudim, we are Jews. Why did you come to Israel? We are Jews. That's what Jews kind of do. Hopefully. Second answer, same word. First off, אנחנו, we are we. אנחנו תיירים. We are tourists. Okay? We're tourists. We can also write אנחנו תיירים מאמריקה, from America. מבית כנסת הר סיני, from synagogue Mount Sinai. Questions about this? Awesome. Which leads me to the next example. So let's I'm gonna here this one. We did not do this one yet. This one is an interesting one. If you remember which lesson was it? Let me check real quick. But in essence, if you remember, we had the single letters, to, and all of those. Yeah. Single letter prefixes. So there's a prefix here. Then a word we already learned means ma. So le-ma, and mind you, the difference is only a vowel here instead rather than lama. Do you want me to write it here? Can I erase the top? So I'm going to erase the top and write it. Okay, so we have the prefix, and then ma. So we know ma means what. Do we remember what the prefix means? Means two, okay? In the right context, it can mean for as well, like for something, for someone, but to what? Which put together will mean for what in English? For what do you need this? Does that make sense? Lema. I'm gonna write it down. We'll also work with lema atMt. To what are you here? Which will also mean the same thing. For what purpose are you here in essence? Let's see what else we have here. Okay. So that will be to what? Literally, which will, trying to speak English, I will understand it as for what. Please.
The to what and for what is a synonym for why.
Thank you for saying that, then. Is there anything else you want to say?
No, I want your answer.
Yeah, okay. So that's actually a very good comment, ma'am. That I agree with you. I want to say that. So lema, I can also say, just as an example, let's say I'm mad at Max, which is rare, and I want to say, why did you do that? And I can say lema asita et ze, which is the fuller answer, but I can also ask what for, why, which will be lema. Does that answer, ma'am?
So it's kind of self-contained. It says, it's saying more than just why. It's saying, like, what the heck were you thinking?
Yeah, yes, ma'am. Is that fully understood?
Yeah.
Awesome. Any questions about that on Zoom? And I understand. So there are no questions about that. I will move on to the next one, which is an easier one. Erase the board. I didn't hear a lot of Jews here in the US that are called Ephraim. It's actually pretty rare in Israel too, I would say. Ephraim, it's a rare name. The reason I'm bringing it up is I had a soldier with me in basic. His name was Ephraim. And they would always ask, his nickname would be Effie. That's usually the nickname for Ephraim's, Effie. And whenever we couldn't find him, they'll say Effo Effie. Effo Effie. Where's Effie? That next question is where, which means I'm gonna write it down. Make sure I'm following it right. Eifo. Speaking slowly, Eifo. Speaking fast, Efo. Okay. Alliterating, which means where. Efo Effie, where is Effie? Always fun wordplay. Efo Bet Knesset Har Sinai, Ba'ir Cheyenne, Wyoming. Let's write down some examples. Actually, I had some good ones here. Okay. Anyone want to try and read it? So we already know this word means afo. We have the hey with a patach. It's great. Hey with a patach, meaning ha. Hadarkon. Ha. Da. On.
Where's the passport?
Where's the passport? Yes, ma'am. So we have the prefix. Where is the passport? Darkon means passport. Again, darkon means passport. Very plausible to be asked that at the airport. Efa darkon. Here you go. Po. Batik in the bag. I'm gonna transliterate in all the goodness. Where? Still. For size. Where is the passport? Let's see what else I have here. I have other examples. Can I erase the top here? Now what did we write? Yeah, well done, man. So atem is a pronoun. Remember atem speaking to plural people. Efo atem, where are you? Speaking to plural people. Anachnu babet knesset, we're at the synagogue. אנחנו באמריקה, אנחנו בתל אביב, אנחנו בחיפה. Does that make sense? Let's see what else I have here. This is a better one. Can I erase this part here? Okay. In here. Anyone want to try and read it? First word didn't change. Efo, afo. Think you can read the second word, Max? Ter. Me. Terminal. And then maybe we don't see it there, shalosh. Maybe I'll just write it down here. Okay, so I just wrote it down again because I think my laptop is hiding it, sorry. A4, terminal shalosh. Where is terminal? So there is a word for terminal in Hebrew that I'm sure no Israeli knows. We say terminal. Terminal. Efo terminal shalosh. What does shalosh mean? 3. Where's terminal 3? I will say terminal 3 is the main one at our Ben Gurion airport. Has 2 terminals, 1 and 3. 1 is kind of not really used, 3 is overused. Question mark here. Efo terminal shalosh.
This is where my line listening and watching dance instructions has got me confused because I was thinking it was left or right.
1, 2, 3.
Or bosh, shalosh.
So those are, yeah, that's just the counting though, right? Because we count a lot of numbers.
The counting number, because they don't say that, they don't do the whole 4.
They kind of sing it, right?
Kind of jumped a couple of the last 2.
So Mary made a comment that in the Israeli dancing,
Yeah.
it's easy to mix up the numbers with the counting. It just goes to show, ma'am, that we can hear something all the time and then it actually means something else. It happened to me a lot, embarrassingly a lot, in Hebrew. But yeah, Efo terminal shalosh, and then they can explain, point, sign language, whatever. Again, some teachers may frown upon me for writing terminal rather than teaching you the actual word. I am sure that no one in Israel knows it. Definitely not security guards who you'll probably ask for directions. If there are no questions about this, I think those are sufficient examples. Oh, I did want to do another thing about this. So we have the top example that we did, atMt, where are you? What happens when I do this? Mi atMt, or me atMt, which means from where are you? So the prefix, right? From where are you? Which in English I understand is where are you from?
Oh.
Did that make sense to you, ma'am?
Mhm.
Let's see. And so another example would be instead of the me, from, try and delete this and write it here. Okay. Now how does it read? Le'efo, wonderful. Le'efo, to where? It's very logical to say le'efo atem. To where are you? In Israel, it's you kind of understand that the person asking means where are you going? Le'efo, to where? The reason why specifically that one I remember a lot, le'efo, is because Israel is cut in lines a lot. Yeah, lines are a recommendation in Israel. Don't expect to stand in line in Israel and for people to respect your position in line. definitely elbow. But if you're asking Lefo, where are you going? Trying to cut me in line. Yeah. To where? Le'efo. To where? Le'efo. Are there any questions about that? Good. So again, I'm trying to show you that what we're learning builds on itself. My lamentation comes from the fact that I just don't have enough time to do everything. Hopefully soon. If there are no questions on Zoom and in the classroom, I'm going to continue on. I'm going to erase the board. For FB. Wonder where FE is. FOFB. Last I heard he was an officer and then just left. Yeah. An important one. You want to try and give it a go? So this is not a noon. This is that final chaf. Sorry, maybe I should have made it longer. Eich. So we have the aleph.
Sorry, yeah.
Yeah. You know what you're doing. No worries. We have the aleph with the two dots, making it an eh. The yud with the shva, the two dots, meaning no vowel. A, e. And then final chaf with the shva, also eich. Speaking fast as an Israeli, ech. Ech. Transliterating, which means how. Means how. Eich. An example could be, I'm going to write an example with both male and female. So the different font here, this is still final chaf, but just for the sake of using two fonts, because final chaf, you do see it a lot of different fonts. Okay, two examples, questions. We should know these two words. Let's go start with the first one, the female version. Eich, speaking fast, ech. Ech at. How are you? Right, speaking to a female. Ech at. How are you? Or so there are many ways to ask how is someone in Hebrew. This is one of them. You may have heard mashlomchem, mashlomcha, which is a tense of the word shalom, We will touch on it when we get to possessive. But in essence, at, speaking fast. At, how are you? Speaking to a lone lady, single female, transliterated. Which leads us to the second example. I use the different font of the same letter here. This is still final kaf. Fast, speaking slow. Anyone want to do the second? Ata. So the same thing, speaking to a male. Ata. How are you? Same thing. I am going to transliterate though. But in essence, it still means how are you? Okay. I do want to say specifically this one, we will be able to use more once we do verbs. Because how did you do? How did you cook? How did you get? So those are verbs that the answer kind of requires an explanation, but we will get to that fuller, more fully. Thank you. Any questions about this in the classroom, on Zoom? Okay. I'm gonna do two more and then see on our timing. So if you look at page 27, the bottom, so on the bottom, let me show you here. Third from the bottom here. This letter? Yeah, so this is the letter, the final form of the letter chaf, sir. This is also the final form of the letter chaf. But so I don't think you have it here on the, yeah, you don't, on the Hebrew helper. So specifically chaf gets different fonts a lot, even when people write normally, which is why I want you to see both. But this is the same letter, okay? So final chaf. Thank you for that comment, sir. But if you look at page 27 on the workbook, we kind of did some of these already, building up to here. So third from the bottom, kama. Remember how much, how many, kama zeule.
Matani.
Sorry, yeah. Hello.
I thought it was a nun sofit.
Sorry, yeah, yes, ma'am. I guess my writing is not the greatest. It's very easily mistaken for that, ma'am.
Okay.
But so what I'm trying to do when I write, at least, is exaggerate. Not always I remember to, but just to show you the difference in how I would write a final noon or noon sofit. I tried to give the hat on it shorter, which again makes it easy to confuse. Does that clear that up?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Thank you, man, for the comment. But yeah, final noon versus final chaf. Continuing on. I'm gonna erase the board and get to my other examples. Okay. Well, three examples. Example number one. Okay, who wants to tackle number one? This word, this question word is at third from the bottom on page 27. We did do specifically this example before. Fine. Ole, well done, man. Kama ze ole. How much or how, in this sense, it can also be how many, in this sense, how much. Ze, it costs. Ole costs, kama ze ole. How much does it cost? So let's say we're at a souvenir shop or at a random shop in Israel. Usually the markets or the shuks that don't have fixed prices. If you ever go to the old city or the marketplace in Tel Aviv, or technically every city will have a very good market. So if you ever get to those markets, be ready to haggle. If you don't see fixed prices, remember this sentence, kama ze ole, and then they'll try to, how do you call it?
Haggle?
They'll definitely haggle you. They'll give you like a very high price to begin with and never agree to that price. You want to give them at least twice more of a lower price, at least. Putting that aside, kama ze ole, how much does it cost? We did it already. I'll leave it at that. Kama ze ole, how much does it cost? Which brings us to these examples. I'll make it easier for us a little bit. So we have a prefix before each example, and then the question word. Okay, who wants to tackle two? Mima, Mima. Sorry, sir. Yeah, so me means who. In the sense of a prefix, it means from. From mima, from what? Well done, sir. From what? Ma means what? Me, ma. From what? These are confusing, but that's why I'm tackling them now. Okay. And also on the note, for workbook, I do believe, yeah, so on there, the top bottom two, on page 27, on the transliteration too, you see that I'm trying to capitalize. So in a way that you can distinguish the prefix. Here, page 27. So I can ask, for example, if I'm tackling number two, I'll make it into a fuller example. But in essence, it means from what? 0, 1. Mima. Ze. Kara. From what it happened. How did it happen? Or let's say Max comes home with a bruise. Mima ze kara. Mima ze kara.
These are fine.
Yeah. Mimize. So the next one is from whom. Mimi. Yeah. Mima ze kara. I'm gonna transliterate. I'm gonna erase the top and translate. So literally translating it from what it happened. Okay. The way I'll understand it speaking English is, how did that happen? Okay, we get that example for about Max. Any questions about that on Zoom in the classroom? All right. If there are no questions, and while you're writing, I will tackle the third one. And I think I'll leave question words at that because I think we did almost everything, but we can bridge it. Number 3. Same prefix, different question word. Me. So it's the same sound, which is why we're emphasizing the second syllable. So the second me. Okay. From whom? From whom? So I can ask Memize. Say Max handed me something. Like Memize, from who is it from? Which is weird because in English it's easier to just ask who gave you this, right? But again, we think differently. Keep that in mind. I'm going to transliterate 1 moment, cleaning my glasses here. Mimize. And again, mind you, because it's the same sound, we emphasize the second syllable, mimi. Because mimi doesn't mean that. Mimi. Mimi. Mimize, from whom is it? See if I write here. Yeah. Quad exercise. From whom is it? Mimize. Mimi. Any questions?
And that would, Matani, that would be basically like referring of an object, like who is the package from? It wouldn't be who's going to sing.
Exactly, ma'am. Exactly. But that's because specifically now that's how I built it. I think it kind of begs speaking of an it.
And then it would be,
From whom
yeah,
did
then
you
you'd
get
have
it?
this music or sing word in there. Package,
Actually, yes, ma'am.
object.
Yes, ma'am. That's a very good comment. Well observed, ma'am. I'm gonna erase the top and write what you said. That example, it's a good example.
I think that way because in English, there are so many things like plane and plane that mean the same, so I'm like going, well, what else? How else can I take that?
That's a very healthy approach, actually, ma'am, because it's the same in Hebrew. And again, there are many ways to say the same thing. I will say that once you catch the train of thought in an Israeli's brain, it will help you when you understand how an Israeli frames a phrase in the mind, definitely makes it easier. Took me a second to understand how Americans think.
Context.
Yeah, yes, ma'am. Sorry, there was another question? Okay, so Mimi, we already know from whom. Ha, this is the prefix. Chavila, package. From whom? The package. Or I'll understand it as English. From who is the package? Or who is the package from? But yeah, a package is an it. So in this sense, I am talking about an it. Yes, ma'am. Thank you for that comment. Let's transliterate. Sorry, awesome calculation of space. Mimi, ha, chavila. From whom? The package. Speaking English, I'll understand it as who is the package from? And yeah, the order in Hebrew is kind of the opposite. Any questions? Zoom in the classroom.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Let's see while you're writing. Gonna open up my presentation here. I'm not sharing screen just yet. Okay, so if there are no questions about this on Zoom at home, I want to move on to our next subject that I'm going to dedicate the remainder of this class and the next one for. Our next topic is the infamous masculine and feminine, singular and plural. I do want to raise a point. If you look at your syllabus, page 3, at the workbook. So segments E, F, G, and H. So today's and the next subject, that's page 3 on the workbook again. So masculine, feminine, pronouns, question words, verbs, possessive pronouns. All of these are easiest to learn together when they come together. Building this class, I couldn't wishfully even teach them all together because it's a lot. What I'm trying to get at with this is that I had an order here. I have an order here. So masculine, feminine, singular and plural, then we're doing verbs, and then we're doing possessive. I may change it. I may do possessive before verbs. But as you may notice, we're getting to a point where we kind of need all of them in order to make fuller sentences. This is a result of time constraint. I wished I could have done them all together. But we will get to it. Continuing now. So I'm on page 30 right now with the workbook. If you want to refer to it, I'm going to erase the board. But yeah, we've been talking about male versus female. We've been talking about how Hebrew is gendered, how there's a difference between speaking as alone female versus as alone male, speaking to alone female versus alone male, or a group of men, a group of females, a group of both. So today, in next class, what I want to do is address that more thoroughly. I'm going to write down some examples here. Who wants to read the first example? You have the transliteration, page 30.
Yell
Yeled. Well done, man. Well done. Yeled, which means boy,
boy.
or a kid who's male. Or a kid who's male.
You're doing a great job, Matani.
Thank you, man.
Mhm.
Yeled, boy, a kid or a kid who's male. And there's a point to me doing these two examples. I'll get to it in a second. Second example. Yalda,
Yalda.
well done in the classroom. Yalda. So
Yeah.
there's an emphasis here.
Yeah.
Yalda, because we kind of are emphasizing the da. Will an Israeli write it? No. So it can easily very much be Yalda just this way. I left the emphasis so you'll know where to put the emphasis. Yalda. I'm going to transliterate. Which means that means girl or a kid who's female. Yaled. Yalda. Okay, why did I write down these two examples? So I want to use this as an example to explain masculine versus feminine in the singular form, okay? In Hebrew, everything has a gender, okay? Everything. Words, pronouns. Sometimes the words, we'll see examples of that, but sometimes whatever word we're talking about will be both. So female and male. How do we notice when a word, a noun, whatever it is we're trying to say is either male or female? Male is the easiest. It will usually end in a consonant sound. So yeled, it's no di, no do, da, de, yeled. A female on the singular, there are caveats that we'll get to, will usually end with an ah sound. Okay? And you can see it here. Da, yalda. So it's not a consonant, it ends with a ah sound. Versus yeled, who ends with a consonant sound. So repeating all of that, feminine words will usually end in an sound. Male words will usually end in a consonant sound. Where does it get tricky? On the female form, there are two other endings that are not sounding. Those words, those sounds are either it or eat. We kind of touched on it. If you remember the earlier classes, we spoke about professions and nationalities. I think Rick asked about firewoman versus fireman. I'm gonna write those down below. This is as basic as it gets in this sense. Let's move on from here. Remember we had that example, but I write it down. Let's see, 3. Ani means me, I am. Amerikait. So we can see the it ending here. Ani Amerikait means I am American, as speaking as a lady, okay? Mary at Amerikait. Can I erase from number 2 so I can transliterate? Not yet, sir?
Oh, yeah.
Can I erase number 1 and transliterate? Not yet, okay. But in essence, what I'm trying for you to catch here is the sound. If you remember last we used this example, we had a very good question. Why don't I just stop here? That's because it'll be America. And sometimes if a word ends in a sound that doesn't agree with the grammar, what we'll do is change the sound to phonetically make sense. This is one of those examples. So professions, nationalities, that's when you'll see eat rather than just the sound at the end of female words. Can I now transliterate it? Okay. I'm gonna erase 2 just so I can transliterate it immediately above. And then I'll have another example. But yeah, the male, that's how it is. Transliterating. And here on these examples, it's important for me to exhibit the transliteration. Okay, Ani Amerikait. Now, if I'm male, I'm just gonna say, and we did do this as well. So this is the male way, Ani Amerikai. So technically this yud will have a shva and it will end in a consonant. And last time we spoke about why don't I just leave it as a consonant here? Because the word America, which is a word, it's foreign in Hebrew. And I need to deal with it anyway, because again, that's a word. So, ani America. It's one of those examples where for a phonetic reason, this happened. I do want to say there is a definition called declension. You can find it on page 31 at the top. But in essence, and we've seen this, words in Hebrew will change and tense depending on what we mean. Okay, you see it more in past, present, progressive, future, and so on and so forth. But in essence, words will have roots that then the core letters of them will repeat. Same way with, for example, America. So the core America is still there, but depending on how am I using America, it will change. Am I American and I am a female? Amerikait. Am I American and I'm male? Ani Amerikai. Sorry, trying to do this slowly but surely. Was that understood? Any questions on Zoom, in the classroom? And I am kind of out of time. I'm gonna let you finish writing this. No worries, I am going to continue this next lesson. We're still in a good pace. I'm gonna switch to my presentation here real quick. Let's see what it was. Good. I'm gonna share a screen here. Should be seeing my presentation, yeah. So yeah, you will be getting this presentation in the weekly email. This is lesson 7 presentation, continuing question words, starting masculine, feminine, singular, and plural. We did not do plural yet, and we did not yet finish singular. That will be next class. You have everything here in terms of the pronouns, the question words, and the explanation for masculine, feminine, singular, and plural. Sorry, that's always long to say. What I'm trying to say here is this is where we're getting to a place where we need to already remember a lot of things and how to put them together. Do it slowly. When we get to genders, go with one gender first, one that you can remember. What I did is start with mine, male. Next week, we will learn how to pluralize these. So how do we pluralize things in a way that's male, a way that's female, and still are understood? For next lesson, I would say pages 30 to 37. We did not finish yet the plural masculine, feminine. That's okay. But there is vocabulary building here. Definitely read the explanation up to the top of 37. So there's a bit of a top here, but the below that is verbs, which we will start on lesson 9, maybe next lesson if I'm making good time. Let's see, what else do I have here? Oh, and when we get to those, we will have irregulars. I wanna drop the panic levels because Israelis mix these up a lot. So nothing happened if we get something wrong, everything's fine. And we will touch on everything. And that's about it. Thank you to everyone for being here today. I'm gonna stop sharing.
תודה רבה.
Thank you. תודה רבה לך.
מצוין.
מצוין. ערב טוב. Wonderful evening. לכולם, to everyone. I'm still here. I'm going to organize the class, so if anyone has questions, by all means. If not, you have my email and all of that. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Matani.
Thank you.